Was you ever to Cutler? Cutler Harbor? That's where I was born and raised and lived there all my days, man and boy. Following the sea, well, I say, following the sea. I ain't never done much of any blue water sailing, mostly just coasting. I got me a little boat, the Nancy and Betsy, just a jib and munsel boat, and me and my nephew Willie, we runs it. We don't carry no hands, really don't need no hands, Willie and me. We don't have no trouble running her, only just for the munsel. The munsel's kind of heavy for Willie and me, so we don't very often lower the munsel. We lower the jib, but we just ease the peak and let the munsel flap mostly. Well, sir, you'd think a fellow like me sailing this coast the way I done would know every mite of them waters like the back of your hand, but you never can tell. I recollect one time we was tied up to Chase's Wharf over to Machiasport, taking on a deckload of lumber for Libby Islands. Well, sir, about noontime we was ready to start, so we eased away and hoisted the jib. We didn't have to hoist the munsel. We hadn't lowered the munsel. We don't very often lower the munsel. The munsel's kind of heavy for just Willie and me, so mostly we just lower the jib and ease the peak and let the munsel flap, like I said. Well, sir, when we got along off Barr's Island, there come a hail from up on Buck's Head, asking us to come ashore. So it seems they was having a hair-setting party, what you might call sort of a christening. There's 6 fathom water right there under the head, so we run right in close and dropped the anchor and lowered the jib. We didn't lower the munsel. We don't very often lower the munsel. The munsel's kind of heavy for Willie and me, so we just ease the peak and let the munsel flap. Well, sir, when I tell you they had 2 barrels of Barbados rum jacked up there, you'll know that they was setting the baby's hair pretty good. And by, after a spell, Willie says if we're ever going to get to that deckload of lumber and get it out to Libby's Islands, we better get it going. So we went back aboard and hauled the anchor and hoisted the jib. We didn't have to hoist the munsel. We hadn't lowered the munsel. You see, we don't very often lower the munsel. The munsel's kind of heavy for just Willie and me, so we just ease the peak and let the munsel flap. Well, as I say, we put away for Libby's, but we ain't hardly got outside when all of a sudden there came in a fog so thick you just couldn't see nothing. Well, sir, after we'd fetched back and forth out there for a spell without getting nowhere, I says to Willie, says I, Willie, where be we, d'ye s'pose? Dern if I know, says he. Well, I says, you go down below, says I, and get me that customised pilot, and we'll kind of figure it out. Well, that pilot was kind of old, and the binding was sort of busted, and I ain't no more'n got to open to the Cutler and to Machias page when there come a little puff of wind and blew that page plumb overboard. Well, says Willie, now what we going to do? I'll tell you what we're going to do, I says. We're going to get a moving, and we're going to get out of here and over into this next page here, and then, by thunder, we'll know where we be.